Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, we're discussing the Rolex Oyster Perpetual 114200 in oyster steel. That's 904L steel. This watch is 34 millimeters in diameter, 11.7 millimeters thick. If we are looking lug-to-lug and only counting the case, the span across the wrist is 41.8, and from end link to end link, the total distance is 43.6, with a 19 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. Now, the 2010s were a colorful era for the Oyster Perpetual. In contrast to the gloss lacquer dials that came after 2020, the Oyster Perpetuals of the 2010s gained a number of vivid metallic dial colors, this one being described as white grape. So of course the 114200 debuted as a model back in 2007. The white grape dial that you see here arrived in 2014. And I believe it bowed out after 2020. So that's the life cycle of the watch you're seeing. Now let's talk about the fit and the feel, because fit comes first. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw it on my wrist. Forgive me for removing the glove, but you need to be able to see the wrist for this to work. And then the watch is actually a nice fit for me. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, and this is in no way too small. It's not a lady's size watch. It's a good size if you like a more discreet Rolex, a more compact size. And because it is so colorful, oftentimes bright colors and vivid colors work better in small doses. So this watch is totally acceptable on that basis and very graceful. This is approaching dress watch status by Rolex standards. And as you can see, it would fit easily on a wrist as small as 13 centimeters circumference, so both he and she may play. Okay, we're going to take the watch off my wrist, talk a little bit more about this unisex-sized Rolex Certified Pre-Owned Oyster Perpetual. So I talked about oyster steel, 904L steel, a high nickel content steel, and it's particularly resistant to corrosion. If it's exposed to sweat or sea salt and it's not rinsed, it will not corrode. Regular 316 can corrode. This will not. You can see it's an oyster style bracelet with a conforming end link to mate it cleanly to the case. It then tapers a little bit down toward the clasp. You can see the outer faces are polished, but the top is full satin. We have here removable links that are fixed in place using screws, and that there are several removable links on each side. You can also see that we have a sort of a beak and a hook system. So here's the beak, and it is a spring-loaded lift-lock latch that unloads and unlocks. Then you can see the hook in there. So these two things will snap together, and then that will lock it shut until you lift and unlatch. So it's not a simple friction fit. You can see we have a debossed 5-point Rolex coronet, and then inside the clasp, you'll note the presence of several drilled divots that will allow you to dismount the spring bar and change the anchoring point of the bracelet inside the clasp to fine-tune the fit. Rolling around to the case, the Oyster Perpetual is legendary for its distinctive design. Gerald Genta once remarked that he wished he had designed the Rolex Oyster. The Oyster arrived as a highly water-resistant watch, the first one in series mass production back in 1926, truly making water resistance practical. And then in 1933, the Perpetual rotor-winding automatic system debuted. The combination of the two, the Oyster case and the Perpetual movement, the Oyster Perpetual, sort of the prototype of every modern sports watch, and a watch that probably represents the longest continuous offering in the Rolex catalog, albeit in many different sizes. So 34 is a good size, and you can see here we have that graceful oyster case. It is not the super case. It's a little bit more fluid than that. It's not as squared off. The sides aren't as sheer. We have a combination of polish and satin, twin lock screw down crown. You know it's a steel twin lock because of that little slash below the crown. And then we've got a screwed in oyster style case back, 100 meter water resistance. Let's take a look at the lume here. Bright Super Luminova pre-chromolite. And yes, if you are asking, There is, in fact, a red grape. I mentioned this is white grape. There is, in fact, a red grape dial. You can also appreciate that all of the hands, the crown, as well as the indices are white gold, so they'll never tarnish or oxidize. We have this remarkable champagne coloration, the white grape, or I guess we call it a sort of a white wine tone, and it has that metallic grain bursting out from the center. Now, we've also got these sort of signal blue, almost cyan, but slightly darker indices outboard that add yet another wrinkle and color and just a bit more personality to this cheerful model. Under the caseback, Rolex manufactured caliber 3130, bidirectional winding, 48-hour power reserve, 4 Hz beat rate, 31 joules, a COSC certified Swiss chronometer adjusted in 5 positions. The movement also features a free sprung balance and a full balance bridge to make it robustly shock resistant, and an overcoil hairspring that gives the watch the ability to be isochronous, or a consistent timekeeper, regardless of its physical position on your wrist or on your dresser at night. Gravity has less to say. That hairspring is also a blue oxidized niobium zirconium alloy that is highly anti-magnetic. Rolex making the case, the bracelet, the dial, the movement, all the small parts. It is a full manufacture product. So reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.